So, this video has been a long time coming. I've always wanted to do a little review on Strive and talk about how I felt about the game, both positive and negative. But it's kind of difficult to, I want to say, review or rate a fighting game because it's never really a great time to say, all right, well, this game is figured out. This is how it's going to be played, whatever. And looking at Strive, I feel like I never really had a good chance to really gauge when it was time for me to make the video because, you know, week one, everybody thought like Nagoriyuki was weak, and now look at him, right? So overall, I think it's now time to make this video because the October patch just dropped, and since the October patch dropped, I think this is where the developers of Strive want the game to be. I feel like even looking at the fact that Arc Ravel is coming up pretty soon, and for North America, it's like January now, but still by January, the most that will happen to the game is a little balance adjustments and like more characters being brought to the game, which is great. But I think Strive is at a place right now where you can say the game has released. I don't think it was that way before, but that's what I believe now. So let's get into it. This will be my review on Guilty Gear Strive. One of my bigger problems with Strive in its release was that a lot of things in the game were a lot different without it really benefiting the game and the difference that it provides. A very small example of this is the OST of Strive. I'll just say it real quick. The soundtrack in this game is trash. It is bad. Like the new songs in this game are bad. There are only maybe 2 good songs. And I would put it off by saying I enjoyed Kai's theme and I enjoyed Gold Lewis's theme. I know in the end of the day, music taste is subjective, but like, I think the soundtrack in this game is objectively bad. It legitimately sounds like dubbed anime music for some weird reason, when Guilty Gear has always been known previously to be more centered around hard rock and not vocals in the music. But the thing is, the vocals are not what makes the song bad. I will say it just adds to how much worse the song is. Don't get me wrong, Anji's theme is not golden level music, right? But add those kids bop ass lyrics and it becomes somehow worse than what it already is, right? And it's kind of weird to me because the developers are always talking about that they want Strive to be different, and I will always say that it is noble for a series that is as old as Guilty Gear or any old series to try and innovate rather than to just take the safe road in doing what they think is good, so long as they feel like it is in their creative design to make something that they think is better or unique compared to what they had previously. And they obviously did that with the OSTs too. And for some of them, I can kind of see the ambition in it, right? Like for example, Ram's theme doesn't go for me. Near does Eno's, but like I can see where if they were trying to do a more vocal theme that was more soft rock or kind of pop-ish, I can see where it's at. But a lot of these songs are just not good. The lyrics don't ever really help you, appreciate the song more. They don't be spitting, basically. And for them to not be doing that in a Guilty Gear game is a crime, because Guilty Gear is one of the few games that is always known for how good its music is. Like, always. And that's so disappointing. And it's not just the lyrics, right? Because, bro, there's a bunch of Guilty Gear songs that have lyrics in it that are good. Wanna Be Crazy, what else? Bro, half of the Rev 2 soundtrack. Even Lily, that song is literally just like a sad boy song, but like still. The creative design a lot of these things, it just feels like it was not really fleshed out to be what they wanted it to be. It felt like an impulse that wasn't built around the decision in the first place. And that's what my problem with a lot with this game is, but that's just the OST. There's a lot more about this game that, eh. But before I get into anything else with Strive, I have to just say right off that the game looks beautiful. It isn't just the 2.5D animations or the lens effects or the glare or anything like that. It's also the character designs. Even though a lot of people weren't really, you know, fond of the, I guess, the censorship that's in the game now, slightly, it does not matter, in my opinion. I think that the new character designs bring something new to the game, while also feeling kind of samey to the old Guilty Gear, and that's always a good feeling because a lot of these characters just look a lot cooler. Like, Kai looks way cooler than he's ever looked in any Guilty Gear, right? Including, you know, a lot of other characters too. And they all play differently, and it just feels like, more than anything else, they really just wanted to kind of do a different play on previously thought ideas. It isn't, you know, shown in everything, but Kai dressing the way he does now because of like where he is in the story is really cool to me. In addition to the fact that, like, take a character like Nagore Yuki, who's meant to be this kind of samurai character. Of course he's gonna move slower and gonna have a more methodical gameplay. Now, obviously 2S is still bullshit, but other than that, like, I thought they did a very good job at depicting a lot of these characters in a better place than where they were before, and that's what I'm really happy about. And in addition to that, the stages look beautiful. I wish there were more stages, or that you can choose where you are on the stage, because when you wall break, obviously there's like 3 or 2 parts to every stage. I wish that you could actually choose which part you start in, because there's a lot of areas in the game that you just don't see as often that are just really good looking, only because it requires a wall break, and by the time you break the wall once or twice, the game's already over, right? So that's a little unfortunate. But other than that, the game looks beautiful, the animations look great, nothing really looks that janky except for maybe Anji's Kara Fujin pin. But other than that, I mean, the game just looks great. But it's Guilty Gear, that's to be expected, you know? And one last thing I need to address before, well, you know, I even get into gameplay, I feel, is that I've said many times in my old videos about why fighting games don't sell. Strive needs to become more active with how it interacts with their community, right? You see a thing on the right side of the screen that goes like, hey, Otashi want Evo. That's been there since, when was Evo July? Like, that's been there since July. Nah, that needs to go. This like, I'm not because Otashi want Evo because it's lazy, right? There's no reason. Even on the PlayStation Store now, they're putting like in-game tournaments in the store, which is a great thing. I like things like this about the game because, believe it or not, a fighting game is not just the gameplay. No game is just the gameplay. The reason Valorant does well has very little to do with the gameplay, because that game actually plays like shit, right? It's never the gameplay that makes these games good. It's everything surrounding them. The regular average Joe is not deciding to play a game because he thinks that gameplay is just riveting. It's because the way the game is advertised, it's the way the game looks, it's a lot of things. And right now, Strive on PC is hard saved by mods. Straight up. And that's just not how it should be, bro. Especially in a series like Guilty Gear, which has how many installments? You're telling me that they can't put the old Milia skin in the game and make it so that it's a time exclusive, or do like a Halloween thing? They're on Twitter always saying about, oh, Halloween cosplay contest, but when they're actually gonna do some things that are gonna have the people in the game care, to where you don't have to open up Twitter. Now I say loot boxes, but obviously, like the fishing mechanic itself, bro. Why is that the only thing you can really fish for is like character voices, if even that, because you don't even get that no more, right? That's so whack. Like, give me something that I actually care about. I don't want character voices. I don't want character colors, really. What I really want in this game is different character skins, all that kind of stuff. I mean, look at Grand Blue. Grand Blue was the first game to really do that, to where you can change your weapon. You know how sick it would be if you could play with Kai's old sword? If you could change the animation of some moves, like if your player icon actually mattered, instead of you just having an aura because you play the game too much and are still bad. Like, there needs to be, I feel like, some more incentives for players that are fine with being on floor 10. Don't want to get to Celestial Floor. They're just fine with just playing on, they get up in the morning, play on floor 10. They don't care about balance patches, really. They don't care about changes. They don't care about stuff like that. They care about cosmetic shit. They want like, do you know how many people, and this sickens me to say, but do you know how many people would absolutely lose it if you can change May's costume in the game? Or if the dolphin could be like a seal or something like that. Like, it's little things like that that they could be doing in this game that, trust me, although it takes a lot less work, you probably have to hire people to, you know, be a separate division in which you just brainstorm ideas for the game. But In the end of the day, the payoff for it and you keeping the game alive, having consistent updates for the game, and making the community, you know, prosper is way more in terms of how much money you'll make, how much playtime you'll get, how much revenue you'll get, compared to you just saying, alright, solos adjusted, may not touch a death suit. Goodbye. I'll see you guys in another 5 months when you'll get another character that may or may not be good, and then we'll talk. It's like, nah. You guys can be doing a lot more with the game in terms of like the easy stuff that people cannot get mad about. You can't get mad about cosmetic things. You just cannot. So, yeah. That's the one last thing I will say about Strive is they need to update cosmetic games heavy. Now, in terms of online, I will say that I'm a firm believer that the netcode of this game heavily carried it into like its success, because if we're just going to be very transparent, fighting games are not in a place right now where you can buy a game on launch, be able to play people that you want to play from different places quickly, and have fun while doing it. It has been a problem since since forever, really, right? And only now has it really been seen as developers actually trying to help remedy this, because it's just so essential to the game. If you're going to have a game on Steam, you're going to have a game on PSN, all these things, you have to expect that a lot of these fighting game players are not trying to play these fighting games to improve. They just want to get online, they want to play people, they want to do whatever, and they want to go on with their day. It has been such a limitation for so long for fighting games that you have not been able to do this thing. You have not been able to go online, play people in a stable environment, and have fun. Like, that has just not been a thing for fighting games for the longest. So I can say that a very strong point of Guilty Gear is the fact that you can do that. Like, the online actually works in this game. It has great rollback. Like, you can't set the rollback yourself. The game auto does it, which people are asking for that to be fixed, but it's also like, I think it's completely fine in a lot of cases. It just stops you from playing people from places you probably should not be playing people from. It's bad for tournaments, but other than that, I think it's a fine thing to have it like that for the casual consumer. However, I will say that because of the type of game that Strive is, matches don't matter as much. Now, I'll get into that a little bit later, but let's start with the first thing. The rank tower in Strive is a great system for newer players, but it is an awful system for people that play the game for longer than, I'll say, like 25 to 50 hours, right? Fighting games have always been that game, or that genre of games where you do well, you beat people until you get beaten, and you go back to the lab and you learn how to beat the person that beats you to then get beaten by another person, and then you just keep improving and growing and growing and growing. It's very hard to do that in Strive, and that's for multiple reasons, which I'll get into gameplay in a little bit, but I'll start off with the rank system in general. The tower is great for newcomers because it really incentivizes you to get the Celestial, right? Like, Celestial is like the biggest thing in this game. You get past floor 10, and you finally get the Celestial. And obviously, floors 1 through 10 are people that this is probably their first fighting game. They probably don't understand, like, you know, fighting game concepts, like what's plus, what's negative, when is it your turn, stuff like that. You know, wake up option. They don't understand those things, so they're fighting in levels 1 to 10. Celestial rank should be the idea that these are like the high level players. In Celestial, to even get there, you have to win 5 times in a row, or not 5 times in a row. You have to win a total of 5 matches while only dropping 1. You can't drop 2 matches because then the challenge will reset, I believe, or like 3. But basically, you have to win 5 matches, only lose 1 in that entire time, right? And this, in my opinion, is the biggest challenge for Strive, and it's a good thing. I think Celestial being 5 matches, whatever, it's a good thing. However, Celestial serves no different purpose, or the rank tower in Strive serves no different purpose than the actual part, which is the casual mode, if you will. Meaning that once you reach Celestial, you don't have to choose to play anybody. You don't have to choose to play a Celestial player. You don't have to choose to play somebody who's actually trying to climb with you. You don't have to choose to play somebody who's like level 2000. You can duck all of your matches, and the match tells you beforehand who you're playing against, what you're playing against, what their stats are, everything having to do with them, and if you truly want to play them or not, right? You can see why this is bad, because 1, you can just straight up level boost niggas to Strive, or to Celestial, meaning that if you have a friend and they can get to Celestial, which is not hard to do, you can just boost your friend to get Celestial, which people do that. You'd be surprised, but people do that. Like, I don't know why, but whatever. Or you can simply just dodge your bad matchups, which is also a thing that people do. The Celestial rank in Guilty Gear is honestly the worst feature of the game in my opinion, because there's no incentivization. And especially with how the game is played, there's especially no incentivization. Once you reach Celestial and Strive, you're over. The game is basically done in terms of what you have to achieve to win. At that point, all you have in Guilty Gear to do once you reach Celestial is improve. And it is hard to improve without there being an indication of improvement. Now, obviously, the reason why there's probably no real ranked mode in Guilty Gear is because they don't want people to get upset with losing their points or whatever the hell, right? But take a game like Street Fighter V that actually has a ranked mode, a ranked system. It just remedies a lot of problems with the game because you can tell when you're improving. Although there is the case where you can just play a lot of people, be random and win and still get up. But you can tell when you're improving because there's a clear division in where you're going. You start in bronze, then silver, then gold, then platinum, then diamond. So although like it means something for you to, it doesn't really mean anything for you to win matches in online setting because you know it's laggy in Street Fighter V. There's still an indication of like progress. Once you reach Celestial, there's nothing. So people just sit there and just play games all day. And then even more than that, because of the way the systems in the game are and the fact that damage is very high in the game, sometimes you just lose. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, and it's very disheartening to one, do a Celestial challenge and lose when you're playing against a character that you get counter hit once, you lose 80% of your health, right? In addition to that, you kind of can't really want to improve because Celestial players don't play the game properly. Which is why I'm an advocate of people actually playing in the park more than playing in Celestial. Because Celestial players don't play the game. They're here to try and beat you, but it doesn't matter if they beat you or they don't, because once you reach Celestial rank, there's nothing else for you to grind. Sure, you can get like the little auras or whatever, but cool, now you have a blue icon by your name. And the craziest part about that is that everybody that's ever blue or yellow icon, they're still trash. Like, very rarely have I played somebody who's had like a level 2000, level 3000 character in Strive actually be good at the game. They are still bad. They just get lucky because they're very good at counter hitting you, doing 80% damage, and not trying to play the game, right? Which is why we'll segue into the next point. They're deadly. They're like seriously needs to be a ranked option for Strive because currently the option that they have in ranked for Strive is non-existent. There is no rank. There's casual, then there's casual with floors until you get to the Celestial floor, and then there's just casual and casual. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. And finally, the most important part is the gameplay. Here is just the most clear way to put it, right? The thing about Strive is that it is not a bad game inherently, right? It is not a awful game. I don't think Strive is a bad game. I just think it is a game that has a lot of misdirection, trying to push a franchise in a different series when nobody really asked them to do so. But like I said originally, I have no qualms against the developer trying their hardest to push for their series to be something else. I mean, this is literally Daisuke's child, right? Like, he has grown up with Guilty Gear. He's literally voice acted Soul for past Guilty Gear games. Like, I'm completely fine with a person who has created something trying to envision something different for a series that they love because they created it. But quite simply, the game is janky. It has been janky for a while. I haven't played much this October patch, so that's why I'm recording this gameplay part now, and I'm recording the other part after I'm done with playing this October patch for like 2 weeks, right? It's the idea that this game right now is just janky. There are very core systems that have worked and made Guilty Gear what it is in past games, and they're absent from this game with little to nothing to add for it. For example, instant blocking. Instant blocking is a feature in past Guilty Gears that had allowed you to, while blocking, input a block at the last second, which it used to be 8 frames, which is very doable. It lets you find different ways to get past pressure. Now, I am aware that that creates its own problem because it kind of creates a system where they have to design moves and normals around instant block. So now, there's kind of a new entry barrier for players to actually be good at the game with, right? Like, think about it like this. You buy Guilty Gear, you boot it up, you want to play the game, and then somebody tells you, alright, you can beat this guy easily, but to beat this guy, you need to learn how to instant block. And then they have to go through this entire next barrier that's a mechanical barrier for you to be able to instant block. But for some reason, fighting game developers really frown upon mechanical barriers in the game because they expect it to be some kind of you must be this tall to ride this ride, and if you're not, then fuck off. But that's not what this is about, right? It's about creativity in a system that is severely limited with nothing else added to it, right? And that's where Strive is right now, sadly, right? IB is taking out the game. And although IB is taking out the game, although it's still in the game technically because it's a 2-frame link now, it's not consistent. Meaning that in order for you to effectively IB things that you need to IB in this game, you have to take a risk that in a game where if you do not block and you get hit once, you can potentially lose 70% at every hit, is not worth it. I know you don't want to hear that. I know that it's tough for you to hear as a person that likes Strive. I'm not trying to shit on Strive. I'm just saying that you envisioning mechanics around the game where the mechanics are not very cohesive, or mechanics are from previous games but are not implemented well into a new one, they might as well not even be there in the first place. That is just how I feel about it, right? I don't like what they did to IB. They changed FD in this October patch, and I think it is interesting. Although people are now crying that, you know, they lose all their pressure, that's fine. Because overall, in the pre-patch of Strive, before this October patch, basically the game came down to, alright, knockdown, guess 3 times in a row. If you guess wrong once, you die. If you guess wrong twice on grab, you now die. If I build too much meter, you lost the game, right? There's too many checkmate scenarios in Strive, I feel, prior, and the way to deal with that was to take even riskier options in the game that didn't really incentivize you for taking them. Because guess what? If you match back, or if you got a successful 6P in the previous version of Strive, well, what is that? 20% damage? And now, if you get hit and, you know, they bait out your move, what is that? 80%. So, coupled with the fact that damage is very high, you know, they were blatantly missing system mechanics that are in past games, I didn't think that Strive was a good game previously. And I'm saying this now from my perspective of really playing the new patch, so that you know how I felt previously of the game. I didn't like Strive, how it played on a neutral level. I didn't like how Strive was played on a combo level, because the combos are hella dry in this game. You do so and so into special move, RC into whatever. The game was just aesthetically lacking, right? And it's all centered around the fact that they wanted to change the game without actually changing the game. And that's a problem with this game. Strive is a slower game and they wanted it to be more ground-based, they said, right? But that fighting game already exists. That's Street Fighter. But they wanted to do that, but then they kept in Guilty Gear normals. They kept in Guilty Gear aesthetic. They kept in the Guilty Gear kind of style of game where, you know, although characters may not be able to do A, B, C no more, they can still do C, D. And CD is still tough, is still a very strong thing to do in a game that is built around Street Fighter V mechanics where you die in 2 hits, right? So because of that, Guilty Gear was in a weird place where they are changing the game and they want to be different in spite of the fact that they're changing what they're doing. But then again, not enough is different with the things that they have changed to the game to make people feel comfortable playing with the new system. So it was a bunch of people wanting to play old Guilty Gear but not getting it in the new Guilty Gear, and a bunch of system mechanics that were in the old Guilty Gear that are put into a new Guilty Gear but don't really do anything because you're in a new system. So that was the biggest problem with Strive before this patch. So that's why I'm gonna leave it right now in this review I'm doing, that pre-patch Strive was bad. I don't really like. If you want to argue that with me, cool. If you want to say it was a good game, I really don't care. Like, that's your opinion. You can play a game that you don't like, or a game that you like and think it's good or bad. It doesn't matter. You can just enjoy a game that you enjoy playing. But for me personally, I didn't like Strive in the pre-patch because it was a game where basically only one character archetype was really valued in the game, and if there was a character that did well despite that, it was because they were so good at doing their own thing and robbing you that it didn't really matter. And defense was non-existent. People keep saying defense was existent in the last game, but the problem with like defense, and the reason why people in Melty Blood are kind of mad, is that defense does not need to be the strongest thing in the game. It just needs to be apparent, right? And the problem with like the defense in Strive is not the fact that IB doesn't exist, not the fact that FD doesn't exist. It's the fact that very calculated plays, although you can win off of these calculated plays, you don't get enough from them off of how much you're thinking compared to the other person. Think of it as simply as this. In Strive, if somebody approaches you in the air and you DP them, you can still land slower than them and they can get a punish off of you trying to anti-air somebody with a DP. And then you say that and you look at it and you're like, okay, well fine, I won't DP anymore, I'll just air throw and I'll just 6P. And then you play characters like Mei who have really stupid jump heights, so you can't really do that. And then now they buffed the character like Potemkin to where now he just gets a 6P and DP and he's plus. A character that has 6Ps and anti-air DPs don't really get to use that as their DP because the game system does not revolve around them. So yeah, that was what my biggest problems with Strive were prior. The fact that, you know, the game just didn't really incentivize you playing it a lot for you to be good at it. There are literally a lot of pro players that said, no cap, the more you play Strive, the worse you are. I've heard that said by a lot of pro players in Strive because, honestly speaking, the more you play the game, the more bleak you realize what you're doing is. It doesn't matter if you win the first set, the second set, the third set, because you can win the first set, the second set, the third set. You can get 3-0'd and it still does not, the person can still be worse than you in Strive because being random and then just trying to fish for counter hits or trying to fish for one thing does so much damage in the end of the day that it's a deterrent against you doing other things. Which is why I never really agree with a fighting game trying to balance around high damage, because it just literally makes you play the game less, right? That's why it was a big conundrum in Strive when it first came out for the game to be first to 3, because people were saying the damage is high, and other people were saying, okay, the damage isn't that high, you guys are just getting hit with counter hits. But then it came back around, people were like, hey, the damage is high, you're getting, you know, a lot of damage off of regular conversion. So hits you with one far slash with no meter and you're somehow, you know, looped into Oki. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, there was a lot of situations like Leo hits you with one combo and then, you know, on the next wake up, it's guess for game or you die. And that's what niggas were doing on optimal things. And now when the game became really optimal and people were starting to lab more, it's like, okay, well, now Soul can kill you in one hit from anywhere on screen. If he has meter. So, yeah. That's my thoughts on Strive offense and defense and everything before. And now I will get into what I think about Strive's offense defense afterwards when this October patch comes around and I can explain that more. So yeah, that's it for now. So after playing the October patch a little bit, I can now confidently say that Strive is a better game. There are the options, the chances that now when you're defending, you have more that you can do in terms of characters having faster reversal buttons, 5P, 2Ps being faster for a majority of the cast, along with the fact that now FD is a real mechanic. At first, FD did not do enough to push people back, but now if you get hit with an FD, like, you're moving far away. Which also means that consequently, if you choose to use FD more, the meter that you would previously use for RC cancels and stuff like that are now being used in FD, which in my opinion is a good thing because before this October patch, meter was only used for RC. Rarely, if your character was worse than the other characters, your meter would be used for supers, which, you know, could be hit confirmable if you had a good super or if, you know, you just need another turn from the game. But previously, RC was, meter was entirely used for RC. So now this is different, meaning that now that you have a valid option with the extra meter that you have, FD is probably a little bit more important than the damage that you'll get. However, actually, let's continue all the positives, I'll say. Another positive is that there are now air combos in the game for characters that can actually air combo. Characters like Kai, Nagoriyuki, you know, the usual suspects. So they don't got no sauce. Maybe they do in a random corner combo, but they don't really have sauce. And the number of jump normals that you have in which you can convert into air combos is still the exact same. So although there is a greater change in air gatlings and they feel good, like being able to link, just linking S into HS is so much better than what you had before. It's still a change that, although it's in the game, is not really in the game. Because outside of maybe counter hits from a lot of characters that you can jump cancel, you're not really going to be able to air combo people. The bigger change to this air combo is that these buttons are now jump and dash cancelable, meaning that in the air, if you hit somebody with a slash and they block it, you can now air dash towards them and they usually won't be able to have another option they can use to jab you out of it. But at that point, it'd be a mind game when you can jab back and you're in advantage. So that's a good thing, right? However, They also buffed 6Ps, which means that already it was very easy in this game to 6P people, like very easy, because they slowed down a lot of the jumps from the second beta that they had, right? Because of that, it is not very possible for you to really jump in this game unless you're playing a character that falls very fast. So Mei, Milia, kinda Chip's jump is a little floaty, so I'm not really sure on that. Ram, even all those characters, yes, they can jump and they can press buttons on you, and now if they hit you with a jump slash, it will counter hit and you'll get a big combo off of it. But other characters, no reason to do it, because you'll get 6P'd, and now that 6P's trigger a screen stop counter or a screen slowdown counter, you get way more damage off of 6P's. So overall, a lot of these changes are good. I can see what the game is trying to do with these changes, but back to the first problem we had in Strive, the overall system mechanics that are in the game are stopping a lot of these changes from being a lot more meaningful than they probably should be. Not every character has air combos, and the few characters that have air combos usually have to use meter to get them conveniently off of like regular pressure. In addition to that, they also lowered the damage on, I want to say, 70% of the cast. Giovanna, Anji, Sol, a couple of characters that, you know, were just in your face a lot, do a significantly less amount of damage because their special move conversions, which, you know, they use to end all their combos, now scale a lot more heavily, meaning that if you try an RC at the end of a combo, you will automatically get a lot less damage for continuing a very long combo. In addition to that, a lot of characters that were already doing damage and had their special move nerfed got more damage. Mei does more damage now and can touch the death view practically in the corner, which doesn't make any sense. Ram's damage is basically untouched. Nogoriyuki's damage is basically untouched. I mean, like I said, a lot of the cast, their damage is still untouched, and you will still die in one counter hit from a majority of the cast. And with other characters, you will also still die in one counter hit. You'll just have to do a different route to do it. And that is the big thing about this patch in Strive. Overall, they have changed a lot of mechanics in the game to where now you need to think a little bit more while comboing in order to get the max damage combo, but still, the max damage combo is a setup which leads into you winning the game. For example, I'm going to put a Giovanna combo right here that I labbed out a little bit, and this combo is very hard to do, I will stress. It is a difficult combo that, if you're not using a dash macro, getting the dash 5k to hit into the second loop of the back kick is very difficult to do in this combo. However, it leads into a safe jump setup that, you know, gives you like 80%. The thing about this combo, however, is yes, you can do this combo and get 80%, but you could also do the easy mode combo and not try and dash 5k and you'll get 70%. So, like I'm saying, once again, although there's another level of barrier for characters to be better, to have, you know, more sauce, to do different things, one, it's executionally harder, and two, the reward that you get for doing this is significantly less than the risk that you have to take for dropping the combo, which has always been the case in this game. The risk versus reward in this game is skewed. I will always say it. In addition to that, a lot of the changes that they did in this October patch, I will say convincingly, it feels like every character in Strive actually feels like they're unique and they belong in the game now, and they're not just automatically bad. I'll say it just straight up like this before. When I first played Strive, I had a character crisis like week 2 of the game, because no character was speaking to me. It was either choose an easy mode character that has very little sauce, and then the few things that you have to do with that character that maybe is more intuitive or is more fun is not required, because, you know, the very simple thing that they do really does so well that you get 60% for doing all that, right? So there was no real incentive to actually try and learn characters, so a lot of people just had a lot of different secondaries. Like Guilty Gear Strive, I would say, was one of the few Guilty Gear games where you can pick up like a majority of characters and be fine with it. It was one of the games that I felt like it was not incentivized to grind one character and to learn, because some of those matchups were just so polarizing for the fact that if you get hit once, you lose. Characters like Chip, although, you know, Chip was a lot of fun, he was only fun because he had Gatlings, right? Like, we know that. You people know that. Chip was only fun to a lot of people because he actually had Gatlings in a game that did not have Gatlings. Like, Come on now. You know, a lot of what made these characters unique wasn't the characters themselves, but was because they had system mechanics that made them more fun to play. Like, Gold Lewis is not fun because of Behemoth Typhoon. He's fun because you get him, you're in the corner, you're playing him, and off of you hitting a person on block, you're somehow doing damage to them. So, yeah. Every character now in this game feels more fleshed out. It feels like if you really want to no-life one character, the game will reward you in doing so and give you a lot of options to deal with other things. But, just like I said before, it's the same game. The damage is still high in this game. If you guess wrong once, you will lose 60% of your health, and you'll just have to hold that. Characters that were already very good got buffed. Again, for some weird reason, like Ram got buffed, Nagoriyuki got buffed. Who else? Mei got buffed too, which doesn't really make any sense, but you know, I guess that's what Arxis wants to do, right? And then other characters that were non-existent in the game, now they're finally in the game. Faust is in the game, Anji's in the game, like. So overall, I am happy that this game kind of also ironed out a lot of the things like 6Ps, some slash moves not actually interacting with 6Ps. For example, you couldn't far slash Giovanna's 5S or her far slash, which made that matchup really interesting for characters that's entire game plan revolved around that. But now that you can, it's like Giovanna's actually interacting with you more. Now it's more advantageous for you to just run up 5k, still run up far slash, but like if they want to, you know, hit a button on it, they can, right? It means that you're interacting more. But although you're interacting more, the game can still end like that. I'll put it like this. I played a 1st to 30 the other day with a Ram player, and I was playing Giovanna. I was trying to learn Giovanna because I wanted to do the air Gatlings now, because not every character in the game actually has access to air Gatlings because of the way their combo structure works, right? But I want to play a character that has air Gatlings because they're fun to do. They're fun to do, and I just wish they were on the ground too, but whatever. I digress. I played a Ram player. I played him the 1st to 30. Or not 1st 30. I played him in 30 matches total. I won 22 matches. He won 8 matches. If that Ram player decided to only upload the 8 matches of the set of 30 that he played, it looked like he was the best Ram ever. Because he damn near perfected me every one of those matches. Because of the fact that I guessed wrong once, then I guessed wrong twice, and then I died. So, that is what Guilty Gear is at the moment. Overall, like I'll say again, I do think this patch put things in a better place. I'm happy about a lot of the changes. Even removing proximity block in the game is off of projectiles is a huge change that nobody is really like talking about right now, which I find interesting. But the changes are for the better, but in the end of the day, the game is still balanced around damage, and I'm not really a fan of that ever being the case for any fighting game. Defense is existent in the game now through very interesting means, because although defense is present, you do still have to kind of fight for it, and you do still have to make an opponent scared of, you know, the defensive options before they're even scared to do them, because right off the bat, FD and Ram is not going to help you unless you choose to FD like super early, which then makes the rock paper scissors game now turn into, alright, you can FD right off a wake up, which loses to automatic grab, but not because the tech timing in the game is bigger for grabs. You can technically FD, stop at a certain time, then tech grab late, or delay tech grab. You can just hold FD. If the opponent starts respecting your FD attempts to just hold, you can't just jump off a wake up because technically they're not meeting you. So now the wake up game in Strive is a lot better, but like I've said before, this is still a Guilty Gear game. Characters still have unconventional ways to play neutral, to do pressure, to have setups, and they didn't nerf any one of those things. In fact, they only buffed them, which means that, well, I mean, you can try and do that, but you guys, guess what? When you're in the corner with Ram, you still lost the game. So, GG, I guess. And if I'm gonna be entirely honest, Guilty Gear still does not feel rewarding for me, or like, feel like, and I hate to say it, but it doesn't really feel like Guilty Gear to me. The game does not really feel like Guilty Gear to me, I hate to say it. But, it is, going along with that argument, right? It is kind of difficult to kind of pinpoint what exactly about Guilty Gear is Guilty Gear. And there's no reason that should be pinpointed, because it's different for everybody, I've come to realize. Some people only like Guilty Gear for the music. Some people only like Guilty Gear for the character design. Some people only like Guilty Gear because they can do Gatlings. Some people like it because of the freedom of choice. The greatest thing about these fighting games is that you can like a game for an entirely different reason as somebody else who's playing the exact game, and that feeling is validated. Because it's not one thing that makes any one of these games great, it's a culmination of many. And I'll say right now, Strive does a lot of things, too many things wrong for me to feel like completely I enjoy the game. I will say, however, that this patch is better. There's a way better version of Strive. It kind of makes it sad that to even think how people were playing on vanilla, but besides the point. And I want to say overall, the reason I'm just not really having fun with Strive is because, you know, putting myself in the mindset to boot up that game and to try and enjoy it is just not it for me. Like, I just don't enjoy that. And I think it comes from like the day-to-day interactions, you know. For me personally, I don't really enjoy any of the day-to-day interactions I have with Strive. I don't enjoy 50% of my matches, whether I win or lose, because I feel like the interactions are just not fun to me. It's not very fun for me to have to play against a character that has a literally 60% of the screen normal, me get hit by that 60% of the screen normal once, and then me lose 80% of my health. That's not fun for me. I don't enjoy that, you know? It's not fun that if I 6p that normal, I get 20%, and then, you know, I have to then guess again on wake up for them to hit me again and do 70% to me. I don't really enjoy that kind of back and forth in this game. It's not very fun to me to boot up the game, to decide to play it, and to enjoy my matches. That's just me though. I hope that, you know, somebody out there is enjoying Strive. I know people are, so don't just feel like just because I don't enjoy it, you can. And overall, I will say that I feel like Strive did succeed in what it was meant to do. People that have never played a fighting game before, even friends I know that have never played a fighting game, they enjoyed Strive for what it was. They have said in the end of the day that Rev looks a lot more interesting to them than Strive ever looked, but, you know, that is its own story or its own conversation to have. But I just feel like Strive did what it did, you know. It's sold 500,000 copies within the first month. There's still a lot of engagement for the game. People are always, you know, willing to watch the tournaments, are always willing to see their characters do cool stuff. But if I'm gonna be honest, I don't really enjoy it. And I hope that eventually Strive gets to a place where it's unanimously fun for everybody, or it's just fun for me, I'll say. Because just like Street Fighter V, I think Strive just needs some time, right? Like, I think it needs a year to iron out all the kinks of the system that it's gonna have. And even then, I can't say if it'll be a more engaging game than Rev 2 or a more engaging game than Accent Core, but still, it will be its own game. Right now, I feel like Strive's identity is very surrounded by the fact that not only is it just a different Guilty Gear experience, but it's also a Guilty Gear experience that has not entirely been fleshed out. And it shows in the interaction, it shows in the gameplay, I mean, it shows in the music, but hopefully they move to make a better game. To end this off, I just want to say that it's very clear that the reason why Guilty Gear is the way it is now is because obviously they tried to envision a new way for their game to function. I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. However, dumbing down a game so that it appeals to a wider audience will never work, because the audience that you have now accumulated before will now dislike that same game. The thing is, I think with this new patch in Strive, they're trying to cater to both of their audiences now. And that is truly the hardest thing to do in a competitive game, because, you know, you constantly have to ask yourself, is this a good change for new players? Is this a bad change for new players? Who is this change for? What do I like? What is it gonna happen? Are there ramifications off all of this stuff? And it's just difficult. I'm not saying that game balance is easy. I've never said that. However, at the moment, I truly do not enjoy playing Strive because of how much I feel my options are, one, limited, with there being very little things in the system to influence me to want to play the game and to grind the game. I have no inclination to grind Strive because, just to put it quite simply, a lot of my matches don't matter. I can't really care if I beat a person 20-0 because the chance is that they do enough of what they need to do and then I lose 23. And in a tournament setting, all it takes is a person, you know, not really caring, deciding to only do one thing, me having one bad read and losing 80% of my health. That is not a fun experience for me in a Guilty Gear game. So that's that. With that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed the new patch in Strive. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I just want to say, if this is your first fighting game, your first big fighting game, don't really let the things I said affect you, because it's probably not going to affect you at the level you play at. And to also keep in mind that, you know, all fighting games are fun. It isn't just Strive that's the only fighting game that's out right now. Try out every fighting game and see which one that you really like, because you'll be surprised in which ones you like, even the super old ones. Don't discriminate against any fighting game, because what's the point? They're all grassroots in the end of the day. You're not making money from playing any of these games pro, really. So, you know, just have fun and play a lot of fighting games. They're hella fun to play.